Today, I'm doing the brisket and Vicky the vertical smoker, but what's different, I'm going to be using Vanna to make the delivery.
Hey yo, this is Dash.
So I'm back in the kitchen and I have this brisket and I wanted to show you guys how I'm going to trim it. So I've talked about trimming briskets in the past before, but every now and again I feel like I do this maybe once every 6 months for those of you guys who are new. So what I use is I have I believe it's a 6 or an 8-inch boning knife, and I try to keep it pretty sharp, and I go in and I have my brisket. So this is my brisket. This is a whole packer, a full brisket with the flat as well as the point. Now you can see a good, I won't say place, but on this side where this piece of fat that runs through here, you can see the separation between the coated point and the flat. So now what I do is I normally start on the top side, and let me try to get this turned around so you guys can see it a little better. This is what's called the fat cap, and this is what usually is when people refer to the top side of the brisket. This is it. So the fat cap is, again, this is how I trim my briskets. This is not how everyone should do it. My customers where I live, they don't want as much fat as it is. So what I do is I end up trimming more fat than some of you guys who might be a little further south than I am do. Right, now I'm going to turn this back around so I can make it convenient for me because I'm right-handed, and I'm going to kind of lift up on the brisket, and I'm going to come in here and just take off. So we have about, I'm looking for a good 1/4 of an inch of fat. Now this, I have rendered this fat in the past, but I'm not doing it today. So bring the trash can over. Now on this piece you can see I got down to the little too low, and that's fine, it'll be all right. It's not going to hurt anything. Now, even though I'm trimming this brisket ahead of my cook, when it's all said and done, I'm still going to be cutting some fat off of this brisket once it is finished cooking. All of this fat that's up here is not going to render, So I'm gonna end up having to trim some of it off after I finish. So let's get these. And I'm letting the knife do the work. I'm not forcing it. The knife, I keep the knife pretty sharp. I try to at least. All of these little pieces here. This piece of fat on the end doesn't do anything either, and it doesn't look very nice. So I'm gonna come in here and trim that up. And if I didn't mention it before, this brisket was about 17. I think it was about 17 pounds. So it's a little bigger than I would like. I usually try to stick around a 15-pound brisket, but it'll be all right. So now, for this end, I'm gonna lift up, come at the fat at an angle, and just take off the top. Once I have a flap I can grab, I'm gonna come back in and pull at it to take the fat up and off. Now with how I'm trimming this, I might not actually have to trim anymore once the brisket is finished. Let's just make this even. Now you can spend hours trimming a brisket, but you have to. It comes a point where you have to just stop and say, okay, that's enough, or you'll be trimming forever and ever. All right, now I'm gonna get this flipped over. I can get a good grip on it, and I'm gonna show you guys this. So this piece here. This will not render. This is the difference between, this is the point between where the point is and where the flat is down here. And what I do is I just come in and I aggressively cut this out. All right, I'm gonna get it. This is gonna take practice. And when I say practice, I mean just a lot of cutting of briskets. But this piece will not render, it won't do anything. So what I do is, again, I aggressively come in and cut it out. All right, make sure I get all as much of the fat as I can. Then I come at it from this side, and this is where you have to be careful, because this is the good meat from the point that you don't want to, you don't want to throw away. So I'm just coming in, and you can see where I'm just grazing the surface of where the fat and the actual muscle come together. And then we're gonna cut this right out. Okay, and we have some more fat on the top side that we can get rid of. Some more fat in between where the two muscles come together that we can get rid of. come back in here and cut it out. And again, you can trim this for days. I'm just gonna let it be. So now you see what we have afterward when I cut that big piece of fat out. Now, as far as on the top of the brisket, or excuse me, the bottom of the brisket, there is, on this particular brisket, there is some stringy fat that I'm going to trim off. And I'm just gonna come at it again. And you can either take your knife and get under it, and then pull it back, or you can just kind of shave it from the top so you only take in as much as you actually need. Now this is a bigger piece of fat than I would normally find, and it's just because of the way this brisket was trimmed, I'm sure. But I'm gonna come in here and try to go up into the fat so that I can trim it out. Now some of you guys might trim your briskets way more aggressively than I do because you might be making sausage or something along those lines. I'm not, so I tend to try to leave as much of the brisket as possible. So here's a good example of me getting underneath of the fat, and then just gonna follow it down. All right, that sound means the smoker has hit temperature. So the smoker is warm enough for me to go ahead and get this in there, which means now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm cutting this piece of fat out because there's just a huge piece of fat in the middle of this brisket. And I can't say that I've ever seen this before, but wait till you see this. This is crazy. So now you can see this big old piece of fat that I took out of the middle of this brisket, and it'll be okay because by the time it sits, you won't even know it's there. So like I said, I do trim my briskets rather aggressively because folks up here just don't appreciate the fat. So I want to show you that this is, in fact, all, for the most part, fat. You can see I cut right through the middle there, and I've never seen that before. There's a big old hunk of fat directly in the middle of the brisket. Again, I think that's just the way that this one was trimmed. So I'm gonna come and cut. There's just a little bit more fat on this side that I see. I'm gonna come and cut some of that off. Again, trimming the fat like this, like I've done so aggressively, will do a few things for you. It will allow you to not have as much just straight fat left over once you're finished cooking, and it will also help your brisket cook faster. Definitely. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and get this seasoned up, and I'll see you guys back out at the smoker. are you gonna say?
Make sure you subscribe.
Okay.
Give a thumbs up.
All right, so let's try this again. It's subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give a thumbs up if you like. Bye.
Alright, so that was my daughter. She always wants to help whenever she catches me filming the video. So just like she said, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you like what you saw, if you learned something, please leave me a thumbs up down below. And leave a comment, if you have any other questions. And I'll see you next time.